Here and Now, the program featuring the news and interests of the African American community. Here's your host, Sandra Bookman.
Coming up, addressing lead concerns in the state of New Jersey, including the urgent need to replace all lead pipes. Also ahead, the Trump administration's ban on DEI at the root of this year's Curl Fest cancellation. We're going to hear from one of the founders. The Harlem Rocket, a new sightseeing experience making waves on the Hudson River. The Show Must Go On, a hip-hop mogul's account of life backstage in the music industry. And later, the Harlem School of the Arts summer program giving young gamers a chance to burnish their tech skills for the future. That's all ahead on Here and Now. According to the CDC, even low levels of lead can have a major effect on a child's capacity to learn, ability to pay attention, and academic achievement. The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency has provided more than $100 million in funding to New Jersey to replace lead pipes by 2039. New Jersey Future has been at the forefront of helping municipalities and water systems navigate LSLR, lead service line replacement. Joining us today to tell us more is Deandra Cameron, Policy Manager at New Jersey Future, and Dr. Brian Buckley, Executive Director of Research at the Environmental and Occupational Health Sciences Institute at Rutgers University. Long title for an important man.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you both for being with us this afternoon.
Thank you.
I think most of us are aware of the situation in Flint, Michigan, and Newark has had this same issue, been replacing lead pipes. So talk to me about LSR, so it's lead
Service line replacement.
The money's out there. Why are we not seeing this happening in more locations?
It's tricky. It's a new thing. It's right now water systems are required to be in dialogue with customers. Traditionally, they were in charge of replacing the customer side. They weren't in charge of replacing the customer side, just the water system side. So now they have to go into the yards. The challenge is that if you don't own your home, if you're a renter, you can't consent on an inspection or a visit. And if there is a cost for it, you can't sign off on any cost. So traditionally, water system operators aren't going inside homes unless people ask them to come in. But now they're knocking and saying, let us in. And in cases where there are histories of community mistrust, as we've seen with different communities, it's hard to have that open dialogue. And in cases where there are mistrust, if someone says something is free, you think twice, even if it's free. And so there needs to be more communication and education, and that's not typically the job of a water system. And so and with the lack of public awareness and the limited education on the impacts of lead, folks become disinterested.
Yeah, and that is what your organization really works on, getting the word out there to communities.
So at New Jersey Future, we do a couple of things, threefold. We work on policy and legislation, and we also work on implementation. We work directly with water systems to ensure that they're complying with the new law. And then we also work through a collaborative called Lead Free New Jersey to ensure that residents on the ground are educated, because in communities, you have these trusted voices, and if you don't believe me as a water system, you believe the trusted voices in your community. And so we're working together with the policy, with the water systems and the community to spread the word that this is happening, and we have a tight timeline
to get it done. And Dr. Buckley, I want you to bring you into the conversation. Explain to folks why this is so important.
So lead is a neurodevelopmental toxin, which means that in everywhere from the fetus all the way through about age 6, it's very, very detrimental to the new baby's brain. Okay, and there's lots of mechanisms that we can talk about: leaky supply lines to the cerebellum and the cerebrum and things like that. But the long and the short of it is, it manifests itself in an inability to learn later on, or a diminished ability to learn, behavioral issues, and lots of other things that are attributed to that exposure when they were infants. And so we got to stop it.
And it's a wider problem than just Flint or Newark.
Oh, absolutely. See, one of the things that New Jersey has a unique opportunity to serve as a model for the rest of the nation, because these lead service lines are everywhere. And what happened in Flint and happened in Newark is that there was a small change in the chemistry of the water coming into the house. And so the lead service lines, which up until then were doing okay, they were passing the water without leaching a lot of lead, all of a sudden you change the chemistry, they start leaching the lead, they start freeing up particulate, which makes it in the water. So what's happening in New Jersey now is going to happen everywhere at some point in time. And I mean everywhere in this country, from farmhouses to high rises in Chicago.
Why, if we know this, the science tells us that, why are we dragging our feet, it seems to me, on mandating that these changes be made and sort of getting the word out to folks like you're working to do? What is the reluctance, to the hesitation about making it happen? So
a lot of people are under the misconception that we solve the lead problem. Okay, we have routine water monitoring, we have water purveyors, the suppliers of the water to the folks have to add agents to the water to make sure that they don't corrode those lead pipes. And we think that with the testing we're going to catch any slip-ups or whatever else. Well, we do, but sometimes, like in the case of both Newark and Flint, we don't catch it until long after it has occurred. And so there are a lot of kids who've already been exposed by that.
So the damage is done.
Exactly.
Can I just ask you, you know, what are the symptoms of lead poisoning, or as a parent, what would I be looking out for? Or even if we're talking about a community that had this issue, maybe they're replacing the pipes now, but you have kids that are being exposed. What are we looking for in terms of symptoms or fallout from the lead exposure, and what can we do about it? I know that's a lot. Right.
So that's a tough question to answer, because the symptoms are often relatively subtle, especially when you're talking about doses that are far less than you can get to the point where you actually have organ toxicity and acute organ failure and things like that. Below that, it's lethargy, it's, you know, misbehaving, it's you know, fidgety, it's difficult things that you would not necessarily attribute to lead. You're counting on the fact that you're not drinking that lead when it's coming into your house. So therefore it's not something you'd be particularly looking for.
Wouldn't be top of mind.
Yeah, I was going to say there's a great information about this on the CDC website, amongst other things.
Okay.
Yeah, these are some of the things that you would see children get put on an IEP for. They're disruptive in class, they're not cooperating, they're not doing their homework, they're not completing assignments. And so, but if there isn't a lack of testing, sometimes they get misdiagnosed when it's a lead issue. And so we're working with schools as well to ensure that schools' environments are safe, and that way that's one less thing that is manifesting in the classroom.
But if it's happening in the classroom and say they're testing for lead, and once they figure out these kids have been exposed, are there things that they can do to sort of mitigate that exposure and, you know, help these families?
So within schools, once you test the lead in the blood and you realize there's an exposure, whether it's in the water or the paint or the dust, we recommend remediating the area. So I'll let Dr. Buckley talk about if it's paint, but in the water, we recommend filters. One thing about the lead service line replacement is that lead pipes are typically smaller, so they don't really serve school buildings. School buildings are so old, they're so bigger, but the internal lead plumbing is where the challenge is for schools. And so point of use is what really counts in the schools. And so we recommend that if schools test their water and they realize that there's an issue, then they need to add filtration to those hydration stations. And New Jersey's in a school testing cycle right now, and we're hoping that we'll pay a little bit more attention to those results and get more filters.
All right.
But that's one.
So one of the problems that we have, and most people don't realize this, is it's not just lead pipes, but it's things like lead solder and the trace contamination of the lead in copper pipes that also can leach. And so one of the things that we recommend is, no matter what your fixtures are, even if you don't have a lead service line anymore, you could be leaching lead from the rest of the plumbing. So flush your lines. You know, one thing that I would always recommend to a school district, the first folks in the morning, custodians, flush the drinking fountains, flush everything, and you know what? Get back to that water that's coming from the street or the purveyor, and you will have taken care of a lot of the problem to begin with. The other problem, though, is that there are a lot of folks who are being exposed to their soil, their dust, which is also contaminated from either lead paint or a legacy of industry that used a lot of lead in firing glazes and such.
Okay. This is definitely a problem that we need to address and keep focused. I'm going to send folks to njfuture.org, correct? Talk about the work that you do with the advocacy, and the CDC website to talk about lead exposure.
So I'll put in a small plug for our website, and I'll leave you that information as well, because we have a whole subsection that's dedicated to lead. We're doing a lot of work in East Trenton and other places, but we also have links to CDC, EPA, Department of Environmental Protection in New Jersey, a lot of the key sites all directly going to their lead information.
All right, and so your website
is www.eohsi.rutgers.edu/lead at home.
Well, we will put that on the screen for folks to see. Okay. Thank you both for sitting down with us this afternoon, and keep us apprised on the progress here, because it really is one of those things you need to keep out in front of the public, because people need to be informed. And we'll be right back. It is no secret that Eurocentric beauty standards have been a challenge for people of color. Nowhere has it been more of an issue than when it comes to hair. And while natural styles have been increasingly embraced to date, less than half of the states in the U.S. have enacted the Crown Act, which is designed to prevent discrimination based on hair style or texture. And now the Trump administration's ban on DEI practices has impacted the largest natural hair beauty celebration in the country, forcing the cancellation of this year's Curl Fest. Here to tell us more is co-founder and director of operations for Curl Fest, Simone Mayer.
Thank
so
you.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
Your hair is absolutely
Thank you.
Stunning.
Thank you.
And I know we're not exactly here to talk about hair. Why don't you explain to folks what Curl Fest is?
Yeah, so Curl Fest is the world's largest natural beauty festival. I love to tout that because it still is. You know, we started a little over 10 years ago at this point, right? With a small couple of events. It was 5 Black women that decided to create a space that they didn't have. At that time, there wasn't a plethora of spaces where women who had just cut their hair or were trying to embrace their natural hair was able to go to and feel seen and represented. So a couple of, events in, and Curl Fest was born, and then 10 years later, it kind of created this movement. Curl Fest was born, it's here to stay.
And why do you think people responded so strongly to the idea of Curl Fest?
I think it was really from demands, because there really wasn't any other space where folks, a young woman can go and feel like she belongs, right? There weren't all of these maybe meetups at the time. There just wasn't that, right? And it was just a community that really galvanized together because they hadn't seen anything like it. And once they did get a taste of what it felt like to be represented and seen, they wanted more. So it was just a reaction to demands, and that's how Curl Fest continued to grow.
And we're talking about a lot of small, minority-owned small businesses that really leaned into Curl Fest and what it represented.
Absolutely, absolutely. Our largest demographic is Black and brown women. And also our secondary largest demographic are our small business owners that come to the event. And we have so many stories of folks who have come to the event, sell their local wares and artisans, and now they're in big box stores, right? Because Curl Fest
exposure.
They got exposure. Curl Fest created that platform or that table where they can have a seat and be able to be seen by the masses. So yeah, we're really proud of that.
So the Trump DEI ban, once it went into place, explain to our audience how it impacted Curl Fest, why you were forced to cancel this year's gathering.
Yeah, sure. We cancel feels so final. Sometimes we like to say it's
just postponed.
Postponed. Okay. Yes, it's postponed because we as Curlfest got bigger, we need resources, right? And sponsorship was one of those resources that became vital to be able to, for us to produce an event of that size. So when DEI took a roll back, so did sponsorships, right? And so there were a lot of sponsors that were behind Curlfest when DEI was a top of mind, but now the rollbacks have happened and it took a direct impact to small businesses and events like ours. We just weren't able to create a festival or an event where we felt it was safe, right? Created and had the resources and availability for the things that we felt like our audience deserved. Yeah. So it was a super difficult decision to take a step back and use this time to kind of pause, re-strategize, reposition, and make sure that we bring Curlfest back in 2026.
So essentially, some of the companies and brands that had traditionally sponsored Curlfest, I mean, they help you get a venue, they help you with advertising, probably free giveaways for some of it, just a whole lot. Because a lot of those companies were concerned, they did away with their DEI initiatives, and they were afraid of pushback from the federal government.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's never been easy to create a festival, but it's been incredibly difficult this year since the DEI initiatives have been rolled back. We've never seen anything like it in the past. And like you said, everything from support with resources to create the space, vendors, right? The cost to be able to produce certain things or have certain security measures in place, they just weren't available to us anymore. And the conversations we were having with sponsors were just, we're not moving in that direction. And there's nothing really that we can do about it other than kind of reposition ourselves to see what this new space is going to look like, maybe without corporate backing, but it's going to require taking a pause.
And so what you're doing right now, I understand, is trying to prepare for the next event.
Yes.
Tell me how you're doing that. And you talked about maybe having some smaller, you got to keep your name out there, let people know you're still, are you hopeful to get other sponsors, or you're just going to have to figure out another way to make the next Curlfest happen?
Yeah, and I think this is part of the reason why we want to have these conversations, because we want to pull the veneer away and talk to our supporters directly. Yes, we need your support. There's nothing more powerful than when we have community involvement together, right? The power of our dollar together. We may not need the level of sponsorship support that we have had in the past, but that doesn't mean that Curlfest goes away. It may look a little different. We may have to pull in different types of resources, but we wanted to have that type of conversation about what Curlfest may look like, what is happening behind the scenes, and how we can ask for support so we can continue this movement, and communities that were created for us, by us, don't go away forever.
And I want to send folks to curlfest.com. They can take a look at the things that you do, keep up with when you have events.
Yes.
And if you've got support to give, you can do it at that website.
Yes, go to curlfest.com, curlfest.com. We are having a pre-sale for Curlfest 2026.
Okay.
So that's really exciting. We're also having smaller community-driven initiatives. So look out for that. Follow us on our Instagram page at Curly Girl Collective. And we have a lot more to show. We're not going anywhere. I just want to make sure we emphasize that. But we just might look a little different, and we need the community support.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us. And this story, we should say, is being repeated with organizations around the country.
That's right.
Okay.
That's
Thank
right.
you very much.
Thank you. Thank
Simone.
you.
We'll be right back. A new sightseeing adventure making waves uptown. The Harlem Rocket, a 100-passenger tour vessel, will offer guided tours along the historic Hudson River waterfront. Here to tell us more are the co-owners of the Paradise Express Ferry Company, Gary Anthony Johnson and Michael Preston. So nice to meet you, gentlemen.
So nice to meet you.
Pleasure.
All right, so you've got a lot going on here. So talk to me about where the idea for the Harlem Rocket came from.
So I did real estate development for about 25 or 30 years, and I went to City College for architecture. I fell in love with Harlem. And I realized that with all the tourism attractions in the city, there really wasn't a waterfront attraction that talked about our culture, our history, and our community. And so Michael, being a longtime resident of Harlem, I always joke that he was there when it was founded. And I decided to collaborate and see if there was an opportunity to bring more people to the waterfront.
And so the idea was born. So Harlem Rocket, because the Paradise Ferry Company is bigger than just Harlem Rocket,
That's
right?
correct.
Okay, so talk to me about, this is just one entity of the ferry company.
Correct. So Paradise Ferry is designed to introduce more people to maritime, internationally as well as domestically, and to particularly bring in people of color into the maritime industry. So we do workforce development, we do training. Harlem Rocket is specifically focused on the local area and culture of the community of Harlem. The idea is that we take that model and then go to other communities of color with vibrant waterfronts to create markets that speak about their history and culture.
I mean, honestly, it's one of those things you hear and you go, I'm surprised that hadn't been done earlier. So talk to me, if you will, Michael, about some of the things that you think that you intend to be able to point out.
So as you said, as Gary said, we've been in Harlem for a very long time. I've participated and produced Harlem Week for the past 30 years under Lloyd Williams. So this is an attraction that is more daily oriented. So the Harlem Rocket will operate from the West Harlem Piers. It'll be a cultural tour going north up into Spite and Dyville, the northern tip of Manhattan, 7 times a day. And then the last tour will go down to the Statue of Liberty as a sunset tour. So this is an attraction that people can take every day. So it was in that vein that we created this attraction in Harlem. The first attraction on a daily basis, we would say.
And talk to me about this vessel, because it's pretty impressive.
It is. We're proud to say we're the first people of color to be in the commercial tourism business in the harbor. It's a 100-passenger vessel. It has been rebuilt at the Director Shipyard. Earlier last month, we actually christened the vessel and dedicated it in honor of Dr. Hazel Dukes, who passed away on March 1st.
Yeah.
She was a mentor of mine. I'm also state chair for economic development for the NAACP. So economic development in communities of color is core to who we are. So the vessel is going to be able to allow you to sit outdoors, feel the wind in your hair, and see the historical areas in Harlem. Talk about City College, Grant's Tomb, Riverside Drive, the Viaduct, the Cotton Club, the Apollo, the Cloisters, and other areas in Washington Heights as well. So it's African American and Latino culture that'll be brought to the surface, things that people don't know.
And the hope is that this is essentially an economic driver.
Oh,
uptown.
absolutely.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. One of the things we've already started organizing and partnering with local restaurants. So once our customers are on our vessel, we welcome them into and invite them to going into the rest of Harlem and spending time exploring and, of course, enjoying the food.
Okay, so when is all of this going to kick off?
So 2 key points. The most visited area in the city by tourists, whether they're domestic or international, is Times Square. The second most visited area is Harlem. And so we're looking to bring that traffic to the waterfront beginning July 1st.
Okay.
So our tours will run from that time until the end of September or early October, weather permitting. And as Michael indicated, it'll be 8 times a day. Just the last 2 weeks, we've received over 500 resumes for people looking for employment with the Harlem Rocket. And we've had 3 sessions at WeWork where we've interviewed over 150 local people.
So the interest is definitely there.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah,
and we're excited to be able to do that because we're also introducing them to other opportunities in the maritime space.
I think it's really exciting, very, very exciting, something new for Harlem. And it sounds like you've got your eyes set on some other communities as well for this.
Absolutely, but if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere.
Yeah, I fell for that too.
Yes.
Yep, that's how I got here from Texas.
There you go.
We want to send folks to harlemrocket.com. right?
Correct.
And you can find out about ticketing,
Yes.
times,
Yes. And
where you need to go to meet the boat.
absolutely.
Exactly.
In fact, we are running a special for the next 20 days that is
Okay.
focused on our youth. And so we have a special rate for our kids between now and the end of the month. So if you go to harlemrocket.com, click on advanced sales, you can start purchasing your tickets.
All right.
The good thing about those
harlemrocket.com.
tickets is that you do not have to schedule a time. So these tickets allow you to purchase now and use them as soon as we start operating or any day. As long as there's availability, you walk up and you'll be put on the next vessel and you can able to use those tickets. So they're open-ended.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. I can't wait to see. You got to come back in about a year to see where
Absolutely.
we are
Oh,
and where else
absolutely.
you've decided to set up shop.
Fantastic.
Okay?
We'll let you know first.
Yeah, harlemrocket.com.
harlemrocket.com. Thank you.
And we'll be right back. June is African American Music Appreciation Month, a time to celebrate the contributions of Black artists and their impact on the culture. Our next guest's career in the music industry spans over 4 decades. He helped jumpstart the careers of some of hip-hop's biggest stars, including Master G of the Sugar Hill Gang, Salt and Pepper, Roxanne Shante, Kid and Play, DJ Jazzy Jeff, and the Fresh Prince, just to name a few. In a new autobiography, The Show Must Go On, he shares the ups and downs of the industry, including the personal battles that have influenced his career. It is our pleasure to welcome music mogul Mark Green. So nice to meet you. I know you're a little bit shaky about talking on this interview. Oh, I'm sure you got lots of tales to tell.
Lots of tales.
So the name, The Show Must Go On.
Yes.
Why that name?
You know, Sandra, when I think about my time in the business and all the trials and tribulations I've been through, you know, I said, you know, what would be a better title than The Show Must Go On?
Because the show went on.
It went on.
Yeah, and you started early too.
Yes, it did.
I also want to ask you here at the top, Mark Money Green.
Yes.
Where'd you get that nickname?
Well, you know, I talk about in the book, there was an incident where I was at a show and I was working with the Boogie Boys and my, I say my speech to them is never go on stage until I get the money. And one day they went on stage before I got the money and I came in yelling and screaming. They said, okay, Mark Money Green. And then from that point on, it just stuck.
Well, that was good advice for them.
Yeah,
You were thinking
definitely.
about them too, not just yourself.
Yes, absolutely.
You started in this career, on this road of yours from an early age.
Yes.
What was it about music that so captured your attention?
You know, it was just something early on. I know like most kids enjoy music, but for me, that's all I wanted to do. And I think early on, when I actually met a friend of mine named Freddie Williams, and I went to his house and I looked on the wall and I saw these gold and platinum albums. And I looked and I said, Jackson 5, I Want You Back, Stop the Love You Save, ABC. And I said, where did you get these from? And he said, my uncles wrote and produced them. And in that moment, I knew that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah, well, it also made it a real possibility for you
Yes.
since you saw that.
Yes.
By somebody that you were in proximity with.
Exactly.
You said you got advice from a friend's famous uncle that said, make music instead of playing music. What does that mean?
Well, you know, when I got a chance to finally meet him, at the time we were talking with him, we were trying to hopefully have our band become the next Jackson 5. But by 1976, disco era started coming in and the DJs became more popular than the band. So I started DJing. And when I met him, I said, Freddie, you know, listen, I'm gonna be this DJ, da 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 da. And he was like, no, Mark, you don't want to play the music, we want to make the music. Go to college and learn how to make the music.
He wanted you to get that education.
That's right.
Because it sounds like he was saying the business end of it is where you might find the most satisfaction.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm going to take you back a little bit farther back than the DJing, though, because you had a childhood injury.
Yes.
That honestly, quite frankly, could have gone either way. Talk to me a little bit about that and how that really said to you, I am going for whatever I want in this life.
Yes, you know, early on, I think I was around 11 or 12. I was home. I think I just gotten over the pneumonia. And I got up to change the TV channel and I fell flat on my face and I couldn't get up and I had that you know, that numb feeling you get in your leg where you just keep hitting it. And it never went away. So when I got home, I called my father. He took me to the hospital, and that's when I found out I was paralyzed from my waist down. I had 7 specialists. Everyone said the same. I would never walk again, but it was through my mother's faith that she instilled in me that allowed me to constantly ask God for healing. And it finally came through. Yes.
And I guess after that, you felt like there's nothing I can't ask him for and
That's
nothing
right.
I can't do.
That's right, exactly.
Okay. Sugar Hill Gang.
Yes.
And I, like a lot of people, I didn't grow up here, but I think that may have been the first rap record. Should I Am Wonder Mike?
Yes,
So I'm not
yes.
going to embarrass myself. But you have a real friendship
Yes.
with Master G, right?
Yes.
Talk to me a little bit about that, and how important do you think that relationship has been in your life and career?
Well, you know, Guy and I went to high school together. I was a senior and he was a freshman. No, I was a junior and he was a freshman. We had actually bonded back then. And one day while I was DJing, I was approached by a promoter to become a part of the Battle of the DJs in the Bronx. And that was the first time I discovered rapping. And what I did was I took what I learned that night, brought it back home, and I became famous in the neighborhood. And Guy started following me around and he said, Mark, what is that you're doing? I said, they're calling it rapping. And that's how we kind of bonded even more. And by the time I went to college, he explained to me he was going to be making a record. And I said, what are you talking about? He says, I'm making a record off of Good Times. And that became Rapper's Delight.
Yeah, when I hear it, it brings me joy even today.
Yes.
With my old moves.
Yes.
So you've held quite a few positions in the business, a little bit of everything. Do you think that's been, so talk to me about some of the different ones, and do you think that's sort of been the key to your staying power too? Your
Yes.
willingness to shift and do what you need to do to get the job done.
Yes. Well, you know, my passion began with wanting to do everything in this business. So as I learned one position, I wanted to learn the next position that was either in front of me or behind me. And I just constantly continue to reinvent myself so that anytime that I was out of a job or out of a position, I was able to do the next position. So that's kind of how.
So we're talking, you've been a promoter.
Yes.
A talent agent.
Yes.
Okay, you got to help me out here.
Marketing
now. You're
and
the pro.
sales, a manager, a road manager, tour manager, an executive for theater, and just so many other things.
Yeah, and
Yes.
some of those, and also reading through your book, I get the sense that relationships are also important to you, and you're also an honest man,
Yes.
which didn't always serve you well, reading through the book.
Right.
But that is also one of the things I feel like that is really one of the keys to your success.
Yeah, you know, especially when you're dealing with in the industry and basically anything, you know, I feel that is my duty to just be honest and straightforward. It's not about the money. A lot of times the people that work for me, they're so, you know, eager to get the check that they will leave out certain things that will maybe allow this situation not to happen or may later on become a problem. And I tell everybody, listen, you have to put everything, you have to lay everything out. You have to be transparent about what's going on. And in the end, you'll be respected for it, you know?
And you know what, you got to know what ground you stand on.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you have sort of a knack for discovering talent. When did you realize that you had that eye and ear?
Well, you know, I didn't really know that I really had that talent. It was just something like a lot of kids or people that are really into what they do. You research, you study, and you learn, and eventually you just find that knack. And I guess with me, discovering the talent was just always constantly listening and thinking and watching what was going on. And that allowed me to present the talent that I had in the past.
So you were around when some of these folks, maybe not so young anymore,
Sure.
you got you had first impressions of these rising stars.
Yes.
Salt and Pepper.
Yes.
When you first saw them, what do you think?
When I first saw them, I thought they were going to blow up as well. You know, I guess their producer, his name was Herbie Ludbug, and we became friends because during my early years on the Fresh Fest, I knew a lot of the managers and producers. So when I decided to become an agent, everyone came to me, and he was one of the people that came to me and he says, listen, I'm gonna give you Salt, Pepper, Kid and Play, and a few others. And that's kind of how that came about. Yeah.
And you thought they had it. They did
definitely
blow
had
up.
it, yes.
I break out some of my moves.
Yeah.
But I won't do it now. I'm going to hurt myself.
Yes.
Drew Hill.
Oh yeah, Drew Hill was one of my favorite groups to work with. You know, when I first met them, Cisco and I, we sat down, we talked about what he wanted to do, how he wanted to actually present himself to the public, and we mapped out a plan, but they are still one of my favorite groups to this day.
Really?
Yes.
I'll Be Sure.
I'll Be Sure, oh my
Pretty
goodness, you're
boy.
going back. Well, you know, I had the opportunity with Al because during that time, I had kind of built a name for myself as a road manager, and Andre Harrell came to me and he asked me if I would be the road manager for I'll Be Sure. Yes.
Yeah, and okay, I love this man. Best concert I ever attended, Prince.
Oh my goodness. Well, I have to shout out to Londell McMillan. He gave me the opportunity to work with Prince and to actually help build his distribution company, which is what I was hired to do. But it was a great experience.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's a character.
Yes,
he was a character, I should say.
Yes, he was definitely a joy to work for.
So talented,
Yes.
so unbelievably talented. Let me ask you, if you ran into a young person today who, you know, wasn't singing, playing an instrument, but they had a love of the music, an interest in the industry, what would you suggest to them? What should they be doing?
Well, Sandra, like I said, you know, I tell everybody to really study and learn. You know, the problem I see now that a lot of people, the younger generation, they don't look back in the past. They don't want to know the history. They don't study what came before them. And you have to know the past in order to know your future. And the thing is, I tell everybody, listen, find out everything it is to know about what you want to do. Study, read, you know. I mean, now we have the internet where we didn't have it coming up, you know. So you have all the avenues here for
get
you
that knowledge.
Yeah, to get the knowledge. So that would be my advice to them.
So you said to me earlier before we sat down, you said don't chase the money.
That's right. The money will come.
Not to say, yeah.
The money will come once you understand what you're doing and you're able to prove yourself. The money will come. You'll be in demand. You can write your own check.
But you need to know what you're doing.
Exactly.
And why you're doing what you're doing.
That's correct. Yes.
Look, I can't have somebody that's been in the business as long as you have and worked with so many folks in so many different areas without asking your thoughts. The Diddy trial that's been going on. Not about the specifics of the case itself, but there is a sense by a lot of people that the music industry, hip hop in particular, is on trial. Just your thoughts about that.
Well, you know, I'm don't really know where to go with that, but somewhat we are on trial when you look at what's happening. I'm a little shocked and surprised of the things that I'm hearing, but I really don't have any comment I can say on that.
Yeah, I know it's an uncomfortable thing because there's ugly stuff that's coming out. But I just wondered if there was a thought that there are issues in the industry that need to be addressed. And not just on the hip hop. It's been whether it's rock and roll, whether it's anytime you get that kind of celebrity money at stake, you end up with issues. I mean, Harvey Weinstein's on trial from the movie industry as well. Right.
Well, you know, the industry has changed tremendously, even with hip hop, how we have come in and really just taken over the world, so to speak. Everything from marketing, sales, and just how we do business overall. So you're going to have those trials, tribulations, and those questions and everything that we do. So, you know, to answer your question, I think that it's just out there, and it's just a matter of how you kind of maneuver through it.
And it should not be a blanket statement about the industry as a whole.
Exactly.
All
exactly.
Right. All right. Mark Green, what a pleasure. Mark Money Green, what a pleasure to talk to you. You have just, honestly, going through the book, your success has been based on a lot of hard work.
Yes.
And real relationships.
Yes.
And it's been admirable. You can find the book, markmoneygreen.com. You can also find it anywhere books are sold, right?
Yes, yes.
And once again, the show must go on.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much for
Thank
sitting
you.
down with us this afternoon.
I really
It's a
enjoyed it.
pleasure to meet you and talk to you.
Same here.
Okay.
Thank you.
We will be right back. It is highly likely that the young people in your life are spending a great deal of time on their phones, their tablets, or gaming consoles. But what may seem like just mindless fun could very well become a satisfying and lucrative career. That is one reason Harlem School of the Arts is giving gamers a chance to unlock their creative tech skills. A new summer video game creation program allows students to code, build, and test their own fully developed playable games. Here to tell us more is HSA's Director of Media and Design, A.K. Lovelace, along with student Lucas Cabral. Thank you both for being with us this afternoon.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I think that it's almost a no-brainer. How could you not have this this video game creation program? Talk to me about why that was an important thing for the Harlem School of the Arts to put in its arsenal.
It was all very spontaneous and organic. Our leadership was having the typical kinds of interactions and meetings that they have, and one of those interactions involved people in the Harlem community that are in that space. And, you know, we are of the generation where a lot of adults grew up playing video games, and some of them still do. And that's really where the conversation started. And then grants got involved, and then before you knew it, we're building a gaming lab. And it was kind of a eureka moment because, as you said, it is probably the most dynamic entertainment medium that we have as a society right now. It really incorporates all of the arts in one big basket.
And tech.
And tech.
Yeah.
So it's the frontier.
Yeah, like I said, it's almost a no-brainer.
Yeah.
And you know, it's funny. A lot of people will say, well, you know, they're just wasting their time doing these games. But what I love about the idea of this program is that you are teaching kids not just to be consumers, that they can be the creative force behind this. How important do you think that is?
It's all important. You know, we're an arts institution, and our primary objective is, you know, cultivating children from our communities and getting them in these spaces so that they understand that there are real career paths in doing these things. And with video game development, it brings together so many things, including the academic aspect of it when it respect to coding. So, you know, you have people that kind of straddle a lot of these areas. You have young people that they're already kind of dabbling in coding, but they like to draw, or they're already dabbling in coding, but you know, they play video games as well. So a lot of them are already experimenting on their own. So it was a natural thing for us to try to facilitate that in a structured space and give them that next step.
Which makes great sense. Now, Lucas, I want to bring you into the conversation. What got you interested in game creation and design?
Well, I mean, I've been coding for quite a long time.
And Lucas, how old are you?
I'm 12 years
So you've been
old.
coding for a long time.
Yeah. So, well, I think since as far as I can remember, when I was around 3, probably, my dad used to take me to this little coding camp in Brooklyn, and I used to go during the summer, and they taught us like Lego spike robotic programming, and we also learned about like Maker Maycode, like a little fun website for kids to like, you know,
to at least get started.
Yeah, and then I went on and I joined the Dwight School in 3rd grade, and they have a design class, right, where you make crafts and stuff. So they also had a coding course, right, like Scratch programming, and they also had like turtle art, and that really got me started into it.
You are just dropping all these names. I know you know what you're doing. Were you happy to hear that HSA now added this to their design program?
Yeah, because like I've just in school, like I got really good at Scratch programming and I wanted more of a challenge. So I asked my mom about different coding programs and she found HSA. So like, I was really excited when she said I got in.
Yeah, I know you're happy to hear him say that. So talk to us about exactly what we're talking about here and the age range. Is it 12 to 18? Is that what's the age range or younger?
So he's in the more advanced program.
Obviously.
But we actually are trying to build a more all-encompassing thing. So we recently started a Minecraft Builders program because New York City hosts Battle of the Boroughs every year, which is a huge citywide contest. So we have all the way from like first grade to high school, basically. So we try to get them in when they're young too.
Yeah, he found this interest when he was young, and now that he's such an old man at 12, it sounds like he's well on his way. What is your hope here? Because what I've loved about HSA is that not all of the kids that are in your programs there necessarily are going to end up in the arts.
Yeah.
But it introduces them to this world, and who knows what other creative juices it might, it might get stirring. So are you hopeful that you're not only teaching them to code and enjoy this, but that you're perhaps leading them to a career down the road? It doesn't even necessarily have to be coding or game design, right?
Absolutely. At the end of the day, while we have a certain onus on students and young people that already have they know that they have a professional interest in some of these areas. At the end of the day, we're trying to cultivate, well-rounded young people.
Yeah.
That are going to grow up and enter the adult space and be able to be productive and build things for themselves. So there are a lot of aspects of game design and in most of these disciplines that happen that we don't really think about or understand when we think of them. We don't think about what's happening behind the camera most of the time. But at the end of the day, if you're working in game design, you're working with musicians, you're working with voice actors, you're a storyteller on a very epic scale because you're the storyteller that lets the viewer actually tell, the viewer plays out the story in a video game.
Now, so the game designer program, is it already in place? You're introducing it this summer. When does it begin? And what are we talking about? Once a week? How does that work?
So this is our pilot year. We have classes once a week right now. We are also having our second summer program, which is an intensive that's going to happen 3 times a week, starting on July 8th for 4 weeks. And the idea is to give students a real kind of deep dive into some of the higher levels of programming. We work with Unity, which is one of the primary coding softwares that a lot of collegial programs are using. So we really made it a point to design our program to be able to really tap in and put these students in contact with the software and the kind of ideas and concepts that they will actually encounter should they choose to pursue this at a higher level.
So it's from beginners?
From beginners
up
to
students that are informed and could probably be teaching them some courses themselves almost.
Absolutely, that's the goal.
And how many students are you hoping to attract to this pilot program?
As many as we can. Our lab is a little small right now because we just built it. So, spaces are limited, so sign up as soon as you can.
You need to get in there and sign up.
Yeah, but it's always about growth. Our media and design program wasn't the size that it was even when I took over as director.
Yeah.
And, through a lot of hard work and dedication and teamwork, we've built that into a much larger thing. So it's the same with this program. When we first launched it in the fall, we didn't have a Minecraft program. That came along later. So it's always about trying to find what that next gear is and to build a more dynamic program and a more enriching experience for the students.
And Luke, I want to ask you, is this something you see yourself doing right now as an adult? Or you sort of just filling your head and with all the knowledge and getting the skills, and then you'll make some determination? Is tech, arts, what do you see as your ultimate goal here?
I mean, I just want to learn how to do more advanced coding. And during my 5th grade project, my 5th grade final project of the year at school, we have a little thing called exhibition that the 5th graders this year actually did yesterday. And you have to choose a topic and do 3 months worth of research on it. And then you present it May 6th. And I chose coding for the project since I was doing it for a while. And there were, I started looking up like different jobs that involve coding, and like, it got me thinking like what I want to do later on when I get older. Like maybe I want to be a web developer or a software designer.
So you are talking his language. That's exactly what they hope to hear. So are there deadlines for the sign up before I let you go?
Well, classes start July 8th.
Okay.
So pretty much up to the end of June, you know.
But get in there.
Spots are limited.
Space is limited.
Yeah, but for sure, absolutely. We are.
And is there a cost?
Yes, there is a cost. But there's financial aid available, which is another aspect of our institution that we're very proud of. And it's a 4-week class. It's 3 days a week. It's 3 hours a class. You get lab time, and HSA is really a family. So if you get in there and you're like, you're really in it and you're ready to go, you find me, we'll find time for you to come in and get some work done, even if it's not technically class time.
All right. I will send folks to hsanyc.org.
Yes, ma'am.
Find out the information and sign up there.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you both for sitting down with us today.
Thank you for having us.
It's just a fantastic program. It's always to hear good news.
Yes, and that is the Summer Video Game Creators Program.
Okay, make sure we know that. Thank you. We'll be right back. Thank you for joining us on Here and Now. If you missed any portion of today's show, you can watch at abc7ny.com/hereandnow or listen to our podcast wherever you subscribe. If you'd like to comment or share your story, email us at hereandnow@wabc.com or follow us on Facebook and Instagram. I'm Sandra Bookman. Enjoy the rest of your day.